Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Can We Talk by Master Relationship Coach Myra McKnight.
Hello, we're back. This is Myra McKnight, your host on Can We Talk, and I am so excited and so grateful to have some guests here today talking about a real relevant life situation that has happened to a young mother out of Buffalo, New York. And many of you might not can relate to that specifically, but you can relate to the fact that when you try to do the right thing and you put those things in effort and in order, that some kind of way, some case, somehow, somebody drops the ball. And in this case, they dropped the ball in the most detrimental way, which has caused this young lady some undue stress and harm, and even to her children. So I have in the studio with me today, and I'm most grateful to do that, I have a conversation with Kiarre Harris, and Radford and Franklin Redd are going to be in the studio with me to talk about her children being taken away from her because she went to homeschool her kids. Information was given to the schools, all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. And even in that, a knock on the door came where Kiarre's children were taken away from her. Any mother anywhere could feel their heart sink for anyone of authority to take your children from you. Her children are ages 8 and 11 years old, and those babies were taken from their mom. From reading the reports in 5 different news outlets prior to tonight, there were a lot of conversations about Kiarre and, different things to try to minimize who she was. But you know what? You cannot minimize a mother. You just can't. I don't care how you try to stripe it, but you can't minimize a mother. I've worked in shelter, volunteers in many shelters where women were, did drugs and things of that nature, and they did other things to make sure that they can take care of their kids. And the judge says, okay, if you do certain things, then you get your kids back. Those things happen. But this was not the case with Kiarre at all. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing when you even think that someone could actually take your children from you. And when you haven't posed a threat to your children at all, and to allow those things to happen, it just it's just unfair, and it's wrong. I see there's many activists. There's a boycott going on all over the nation. Also within Buffalo, New York, there's boycotts, there's activists, and I definitely am grateful to even just be a part of this game-changing time to have Kiarre and those that are with her to talk about this, because we need to be aware, and we need to keep an open mind, and we need to pray. We definitely need to pray for those who are in those particular situations, because honestly, there could be somebody else. It could be you. And something like this happened to me before, but I won't talk about it now. I'll talk about it on the other side. But, your intentions are good. And I spoke about that earlier. There is nobody out there who has not intended to do something correctly, and all hell breaks loose. And you wonder, how in the heck did this just happen? What just happened? So, you want to continue to pray for yourself, pray for all of us, and definitely pray for those who are caught in the trap of the justice system. I do know that when you're fighting for something at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the storm will be over. And here on Can We Talk, we want to continue to encourage Kiarre in her fight, in her struggle. But one thing that I thought about that I'm quite sure guys can identify with me in this is the fact that as a mom, the thing is, her kids have been taken away from her, but the only thing that I can keep resonating in my mind is that she's going to get them back. And that's a wonderful thing, because there's many moms in our community whose children are gone and they won't get them back. And so just for that, a little bit of hope, that little bit of a shining light that's there, because she will get her children back. And I'm quite, and that's a prayer and a belief and a hope and a faith on a lady that I don't even know, but I just trust that the God that we all serve will do what her intent was, to do what's right. So I trust and believe that the God that we serve will do what's right. So, but then we have to pray for her as well as pray for those mothers whose children were taken away from them too early, too soon, and she does not have an opportunity to go and call them back at all. I do believe that we have our guest in the studio, Kiarre.
I'm here, sister. How are you? Good evening.
Hey, I'm doing well. Samuel Radford and Franklin Redd.
Yes, good evening, Sister Myra. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you all doing today?
Well, considering the circumstances, we continue to be in the struggle, and we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to get this word out so we can gather the kind of support that we need to support Sister Kiarre.
Absolutely. And what I like to do is I want to get the word out. I want you all to be able to tell the story so that those of the listening audience that are on the show tonight and throughout can hear about the story, can Google the story, find the story, and we can build up some synergy, which we have out there already, that we can make something happen. So, Kiarre, how are you?
I'm hanging in there.
I understand. How are the babies?
They're going through it. They're very stressed, and they miss home, and they miss me a lot. So it's really a tough time.
It's a horrible time, and I understand it. As a mother, I understand, and prior to you guys coming along, all the mothers that are out here that are listening, our heart is with you. So what I like to do is tell us what happened, so that our Source Nation family can begin to embrace this, and so we all know about it. So tell us, Kiarre, what happened?
Well, throughout the past couple years, me just becoming more conscious and more aware of, our society and systemic problems and systemic racism and things like that. I began my journey researching homeschooling, and the school system really was not a good fit for my children, and they were not succeeding and doing well. So I decided to unenroll them. This was December 7th when I actually put the paperwork in, December 7th of 2016. And at that time, the homeschool coordinator notified me that she would tell the children's schools that they were unenrolled and that I could commence homeschooling. I later realized that she failed to do so and that the children were still being marked absent in school. So my son's school called Child Protective Services, and they contacted me and wanted to know why my son hadn't been in school. And I told them that both of my children were homeschooled, and they seemed pretty confused on the process with the paperwork and things like that. They wanted to see certain papers, and they wanted to come inside my home. And I refused to let them do that. I spoke with the social services worker a few times, and she did tell me that she was going to end up taking me to court. She never did do so. She went to court on her own and did not notify me that there was a removal hearing that I was supposed to be there for. And she convinced the judge to sign the order to have my children removed from my custody. And when she came to carry out that order with the Buffalo Police Department, I refused. So I was arrested. And later on after that, they did track me down by my license plate, and they came and took the children away with 8 police officers, and they basically did a strip search in front of my children, and they arrested me again, and they took the children and put them in an institution, and I was allowed no contact with them for 5 days. And after that, I was allowed to speak to them on the phone once every other day for 10 minutes. And basically right now I'm still at a point where I have been denied visits with my children, and it's been about 45 days.
Now, Kiarre, this is out of, just so our association family knows, this is out of Buffalo, New York, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What is the school system? What's the name of the school system in Buffalo, New York?
Buffalo Public Schools.
Okay, it was the public schools. Okay, just so we know the facts, in case we're looking it up, we want to make sure we have all the information. And so I do understand, I was reading where you had a hearing, or there was a hearing, and the judge denied, was a denial about getting the kids back at one time?
Yes.
Okay. But did they give a reason? It's just kind of this right here, what you're talking about, 8 policemen tracking you down, doing a strip search. It's just kind of, I'm asking, where are we? Is this the United States of America? Where are we? Because you didn't do what? I'm not sure. What did you not do to cause all of this kind of barrage on your personal life and your children? You missed a meeting?
No, there was no meeting. It was basically that the homeschool coordinator failed to notify my children's school that they were unenrolled from school, so they were being marked as absent for over a month.
So, Kiarre, what was the charge?
Educational neglect.
So we have a mother who made a decision to homeschool her children, and mothers across the globe, across the country, homeschool their children all the time. But because you decided to homeschool your children, and it sounds as though to me, and let me know if I'm incorrect on this, Kiarre, is that the school and the district, was it a miscommunication there, as well as them communicating properly to you?
Well, at first I thought it was a miscommunication until I had informed all parties and also shown my documentation. At that point, it became aware to me that this was no mistake and this was intentional.
And so, Kiarre, what reason would you say it was intentional?
I believe it's definitely based on my race, discrimination based on race, and also I have been stalked for a while. That's actually one of the allegations. They put one of my Facebook posts in the allegations on a court petition. I have a pretty significant following on Facebook, and I post a lot of things on there that they found to be personally offended by.
Okay.
So I think that he plays
and they found that to be personally offended. Now, so I guess the Buffalo, New York Police Department should be pretty busy if they're going around checking Facebooks and things that are offensive, then that's a part of Facebook. So, you know, if you're a mother and you see a few things that you don't like for whatever reason, it would seem like to me they should be pretty busy, because if they're bringing 8 to get you, my goodness, it just doesn't make any kind of sense. We have a caller in our studio that would like to have ask a question or a comment that they would like to make, and we're going to wait on them to do that. So this is where you are, and I do understand the kids or your children are with your grandmother now?
The children are now with family, yes.
They're now with family. Okay, great. So are you able to see them more, or do they still have supervised visits?
Actually, I had one visit only, and that was cut short after a few minutes because I started to read a newspaper article to the children, and the social worker who was sitting in on the visit, she deemed that to be inappropriate, and she ordered me to put it away immediately or she would terminate the visit. And a couple minutes in, she ended up terminating the visit because I was explaining to her that it's a public newspaper and that the children aren't going to see it anyway and their friends at school aren't going to see it. and it's public information.
Oh, wow.
And, yes, she made the decision to terminate the visit, and now I have to meet with her and her supervisor, and they're going to decide if I can still continue to have visits through their agency.
Wow.
This is Sam Radford. I just want to chime in and just give a perspective that I think is real important, because I think what we have here is a situation where a educated black woman was making an assertive action to homeschool her children, and because when they came to ask her, could they see her children? They come in her house. She rightfully asked them that they have the paperwork for her to see the warrant to take her children. They didn't have it, and she refused. And so at that point, what they decided to do was they wanted to go forth. They wanted to break her spirit. And when I say break her spirit, I mean what they was doing is they were demanding that she turn over her children. And anybody know that? I mean, an animal. If somebody came to an animal, a dog or a cat, and tried to take their children, you're going to defend your children. She did what any self-respecting human being would do, in that she defended her family. And so what do they do? They turn around, they bust up in a hotel room, pull up her shirt, pull down her pants in front of her children, and then they snatch them away, take her away in handcuffs. So what they do, what they've been doing, and to take that all the way through to where she's in front of her children, her, the mother, reading a public newspaper to her children, they tell her to stop reading. How dare they tell her to stop reading to her children, and if she don't stop, they're going to end the visit. And so what do? They end the visit. So what they've been trying to do this whole time is break her spirit, because she represents a very, 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 the potential of what she represents is a major threat to the system. Because if you do more than half, for the last 50 years, 75% of the black males who go to Buffalo Public Schools have dropped out of school. Only a 25% graduation rate over the last 40 years, 50 years. She has a young black male son. If all of the women in the school district was like her, and they begin to take their children out and homeschool their children, do you know what impact that would have on the school district? She's a threat. Absolutely. Because her consciousness is a threat. So they're trying to stop that by making her an example.
Yeah, absolutely. I read that to where, Kiarre, you were in the hotel, and they busted in the door. The scene of that, to me, just sounds like something out of a movie, action movie or something, and you were not a terrorist, nor were you a wanted criminal, or I just don't get that. And I also read where they said that it was due to the laws in New York, there were certain things they couldn't disclose to the media, but it's such a small, it's just like a jaywalk. And I just, paperwork got missed, something happened, and I understand what the brother was saying truly, because when you stand up, and when you stand up strong, and this is for all of us, any of us, when you stand up strong, somebody is always willing to try to hit you at the knees with the bat to bring you down. But in your case, Kiarre, that's not happening.
Myra, if you can take it one step further, think about this. A judge, this is not a social worker, this is a judge, tells her that she don't have the right. They told her if she posts something else on Facebook, they're going to take her children away, because they were that threatened, and offended by what she was saying, that they threatened her to take her children away if she posted something on Facebook. I mean, so this is a serious issue we're dealing with. That a judge on the record thought that they can publicly make a statement that you don't have the freedom of speech, freedom to go on your Facebook account and say whatever you want to say. She was standing up for her community. She was standing up for injustice in her community, and they had a problem with that. And so, again, they seek to impose on her, and all she did is stand up for herself, and she won't bow, and that's frustrating them. And they're stretching out her, getting her children, because she won't bow to them.
Yeah. And I'm just still amazed by this whole thing. that this could even be happening. And this happened sometime in December, is that correct?
Yeah, the notice of intent to homeschool was turned in on December 7th.
Right.
There was a 10-day period that the district had where it was supposed to send out a packet to Ms. Harris. Before that 10-day period was over, CPS was contacting Ms. Harris to come and do a home inspection. So there shouldn't have been a CPS activity at all at that stage, because at that stage the district was in the position where it had to perform certain things. Ms. Harris had done everything she was supposed to do on December 7th when she received the date stamp on those documents indicating from that moment forward those children were unenrolled, and she was told her children were no longer enrolled in the traditional as students in the district. They are now enrolled as homeschool students from that moment. So when she walked out of the district's office with a signed letter from a district employee and a stamped document, which was a copy of her intent to homeschool, she was done. She went and started homeschooling her children.
Right.
5 or 6 days later, she's contacted by Child Protection Services requesting to come inspect her home. The inspection of the home for homeschool parents, that is not something that happens as a result of, a normal homeschooling scenario. I'm a homeschooling dad with 4 children homeschool. We have a child that's never been in the district. And when we turn in our notice to intent, there's nothing that happens after that except we homeschool our children. The district was supposed to send a packet within 10 days. She never received the packet. But she received phone calls from CPS to inspect her house, and then 3 days later the conversation was inspect her house and review her home instruction plan for her children. The home instruction plan, the district doesn't have the authority to prove it. New York State has guidelines that state the access to curriculum that needs to happen, the threshold. And so all the district gets to do is verify that you are hitting that threshold. They don't get to test your children. They don't get to, they're not approving anything. So she should not have been contacted by CPS at all. She should have been in the experience of just homeschooling her children. But Ms. Harris is, again, young single mother who has decided not to allow the district to have access to educating her children because of the history of the district. The district here has not performed well. Her children, she had placed in the district, a couple of schools trying to find a better place for them. And when she determined that there was no place that would get the education she was desiring, she made the decision, responsibility to educate her children herself. And from that moment forward, everything went in opposition to the way it should have, not based on her actions, but based on the actions of the professionals who are all in this economy that basically benefits when a child is taken from the custody of their parent.
Right. And through all of this, I just can't see a real reason for all of this to have transpired with Kiarre doing all the things the right way. And even though on the Facebook, and even in this turmoil that we're living in right now, First Amendment is free speech. So, she can say what she wants to say, and that protects her in that particular area. I'm just kind of, and I got a call, and someone wants to ask a question or make a statement. 0577 as the last 4 digits. You have a question or comment you'd like to make?
Yes, hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Kiarre, my question to you, because I homeschool my son as well, and my heart really just goes out to you, and I've never had this situation. But my question to you, do you have like a petition or something that's going around that maybe we can sign and, request that they comply with what's supposed to be done? Because from what I read as well, it had to do with paperwork on their end that they failed to file. And has no one on their end said anything about the paperwork, saying, okay, yes, we dropped the ball here, so that we can get this matter resolved?
Thank you for your question, sister. And actually, nobody is admitting to having dropped the ball at this point, and they're actually doing a lot of finger pointing in my direction. At first they said I didn't have custody of my children, and then they said that I was supposed to turn in the education plan first, which is not true according to New York State regulation. And then they were saying there was already an open CPS investigation going on, none of which they were supposed to say because of privacy laws, and none of which is true. And also, there is a phone number that you can call to directly to the Commissioner Services to ask and demand that my children be released to come home. And that phone number is 716-858-7511. And the commissioner, his name is Al, A-L, and his last name is Dirschberger, D-I-R-S-C-H-B-E-R-G-E-R. And I ask that anybody listening call every day, once a day, until my children are back home. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. My second question is, you said that your children are with family. Do you have the support of your family as well? Are they standing behind you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking my call, and I wish you all the best, and may your children get back safely and in a timely manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. We appreciate that very much. Mm-hmm. The number that Kiarre just gave us is 716-858-7511. 716-858-7511, and that was Al Dirschberger, and I'll spell it for you. ALDIRSCHBERZER. And what department was that, Kiarre? I didn't write that part down. I'm sorry.
His last name is G-E-R, G like Gregory. And it's, I'm sorry, what did you say, what county?
Oh, yeah. What department is he from? They're calling. Where they're calling to?
Oh, he's the Commissioner of Erie County Social Services.
Okay. Okay, he's the Commissioner of Erie County Social Services. Okay, we'll get that, and I'll put it on my Facebook as well for our listeners to call every day, because moving, we have to be moving and things like this. We can't sit by and allow things to be unjust, because it could hit all of our homes. Anybody's home it could hit. And when it happens like that, I believe that this is where God gives us an open eye to say, look out. And this is nothing new for our community, to where we've had to look out for things. And maybe sometimes we get laxed and we don't see it, but when things like this come up, this is injustice. And no matter what the other side believes or think, from a mom's perspective, this is injustice. The babies are at risk right here. The memories of what those children are going through are at risk. The risk that Kiarre is going through, just not having her children at home. This is not a matter that you can just kind of forget, because it's hard to believe it's happening, because you really have no clear answers for anything. And I think if you have clear answers, then you can find solutions. But when you don't have clear answers, that makes it a lot more difficult for you to proceed in that. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, Myra, if I can comment, and I know it's a struggle for us to maybe accept that there maybe are some very clear answers on why this happened. Since this has happened to her, we've had at least 7 parents call us about the school calling CPS on them. And it became clear to us as we begin to hear more and more people talk about this experience, that just for example, when her children were taken, they were put into institutional foster care. Understand that somebody has a contract to provide that foster care. And when they went into that institutional foster care, they had to stay there contractually for a certain period of time. Then when she gets visitation, somebody had a contract to supervise her visitation. There are jobs created because they are kidnapping children in our community. And we can't pretend like people's economy is set up around the exploitation of our children. So it don't make sense if you're thinking logical and rational and fairly, but they've never dealt with our community that way. It makes sense that they're trying to keep themselves employed at our expense. What don't make sense to them is that she had the courage to to stand up to them and say, no, you're not doing that to our children. And like you said, if we don't, it's her today, but if we don't stand behind her, it can be any one of us tomorrow.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that can happen on so many levels. And just what the brother said a few minutes ago, every transaction that happened, it was a relationship built that happened, whether it was good or bad. In this instance, it was bad. And somebody got paid for every transaction that was made. And that is something that, we need to understand, that exactly what he said. And it goes back to the private prisons. It goes back to the private schools. It goes back to the schools itself, the state funded. It goes back to the social workers. It goes back to the commission. Everybody that's in this is getting paid. It's a hand somewhere. And if somebody in this circle of pool has made a mistake, you and I wouldn't know about that mistake. Because it begins to weave its own little life of its own, or its own little closed shelter of its own. So this this thing has legs. It does. But on the side of where we are on, this means that when things like this happen, we have to, whether we understand it, whether we know Kiarre or not, we don't have to know her personally, but a lot of us, we know her pain. We can feel her pain. And every mother, grandmother, aunt, sister, every woman can feel that kind of pain when you've taken away something that God is just embedded you with, and somebody has taken away. And there's a question mark, of course. I'm quite sure that Kiarre has a trust and belief in God that she's going to get her children back, but this is an ordeal that's here today. And as people, as human beings, we have to make some noise. We have to say something. We can't continue to just allow things just to go by and say it didn't happen to us, because it could. So easily it could. So what is the next step, Kiarre? What's the next step for you? I know you gave us the information to call the commissioner. And we can do that, and I'm surely going to do that tomorrow myself. And what is the next step? If maybe you or Samuel or Franklin can tell us, what is it that we can do where we stand?
The first thing we can do is to come to terms that everybody can do something. If you don't do nothing but just put out a positive vibration or a prayer, we ask people to do that. But then there's legal costs associated with this, and those people who have the resources to help support Sister Harris, we need them to step up. Go to the Facebook page. In the matter of Kiarre Harris, there's a generosity account. We need people to help the sister out in this particular case so we can be able to make sure she gets the proper legal representation that will ensure that she gets her children back and this don't happen again. There's a PayPal account. You can go to PayPal.
PayPal.me, /Kiarre, Kiarre.
And if you can also go to the Facebook page and like the Facebook page so that we can have more supporters. There are 2 petitions. So if you just put, what's the petition, the Facebook page?
It can be found on In the Matter of Kiarre Harris, and it's a change.org petition.
So we need people to go sign a petition. If people are from Buffalo are listening, there's going to be a rally in front of the court on March 15th.
At 10 a.m.
Yeah, so we need people to come to court at 10 a.m. on March 15th. We're going to start rallying there to show our support. So we need everybody to show support every way possible. Pick up the phone, call the commissioner, like the Facebook page, donate, come to the rally, anything, or pray. All those situations.
Okay, great. The Facebook page, make sure, Source Nation Family, we go to the Facebook page, make sure we contact the commissioner office as well, PayPal or, donate. When you're doing things like this, you don't have the money, you're not working, the concentration has to be on the children. And of course the legal fees and things of that nature, so that you can bring her home back in together. And we got to look at it as if it's her, it's like it's us. And whatever donation you can make, maybe we just don't eat out one day. Whatever donation we can make, we got to make sure that we just got to make sure we do something. So everybody, all of us can do something. And truly, even if we do that physical thing, we also can do the prayer thing. So continue to pray and lift Kiarre up and lift her children up as well, and touching everybody that's involved, Samuel, Franklin, the attorneys, everybody, because this is something that has to change. And even in this, Kiarre, we're looking for you at the end of this journey, that just something else is going to happen. I mean, you're going to be able to make a huge difference in the walk that all of us walk, because we have that opportunity to do that. Did you want to add something, Kiarre, before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to tell my story, and hopefully I can follow up on your show in the near future, and God willing, I'll have my children by then.
Absolutely. I am looking forward to that. I know that's going to happen. I know you're going to have your children. I believe in that. I truly do have the faith that that's going to happen, and that you will come on the show and bring the children with you.
They would love that, definitely.
Well, I would like to thank you for being a part of the discussion today. I like to thank you for even coming on with the bravery that you do have and the courage to talk about your story, to stand up for what's right, for what you believe in, because we have to do that, and we all need to do that. And hopefully, not hopefully, I know your courage is going to resonate to somebody else that will do the same. We also thank you, Samuel and Franklin, for also accompanying her and being a part of the discussion as well. And we ask God to protect all of you, all to cover you, and give you energy and strength as you continue this journey and fight.
Ashe, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night. Good night.
Okay, there we have it. Source Nation family, this is Myra McKnight. What Can We Talk? We just had that conversation is one that you just know that tonight you got to say some words. You got to talk to somebody. You got to say something encouraging for those babies, because, I know where my son is, and I can go over to his apartment and I can touch him. But you got to say some words for those mothers who can't do that, those mothers who can't just go and touch their children, those mothers that are in a quandrum. And it's unfair, and it's just an unfair thing that has happened. But, we're here, and that's what this show is about, talking about those things, and some of them we don't like to hear. But, this is truth, and this is what truth is about. When your rights are being threatened, when you're being threatened, and definitely when your family's being threatened, you have to have a conversation. You got to be able to talk about it, and you talk about it as a community. You talk about it as one voice, and you talk about it as one prayer leading to one thing. And I was just going to say, the heartbreak of somebody taking your kids. I remember that brought me back years and years ago when my son was probably 10 or 9 years old, and I was working one job, and I told him, I bought him some McDonald's, and I said, look, you stay in the car, or you can come in here with me to a ladies' clothing store. I was being interviewed for a part-time job. So as a single mom, I was working a full-time job and a part-time job. And he said, Mom, I don't want to do that. I want to stay right here, and I'm going to eat my Happy Meal. And I said, okay. I left the windows down right outside the store, and probably about, I don't know, it wasn't even 5 feet. And he came in the store, and they told him that I wasn't there. And I always told him, if I tell you I'm somewhere, that's where I am. I was in the back being interviewed. I was in there 10 minutes. Came out, didn't see my son in the car, got panicked, and went just kind of nuts. And I looked to the right, and they had my son. The police had my son. And I'm like, I couldn't just fathom what had just happened. And what he did was, my son got out the car when he didn't see me, and he was by himself. They can tell he was well-groomed. And I never forget these two policemen, these two white policemen came to me and talked to me so bad and said, you know what we could do to you for child abandonment? And I just was numb, and God helped me not to say anything because I was getting ready to say something. And I didn't. I just, started breathing real hard and that kind of thing. And they did good. They went and bought him something. I don't know what happened. But it was just such a horrible feeling that I had, and they looked at me like I was a mother who did not care for her child, but I was a single mother going to find a part-time job to go with my full-time job. And the way they spoke to me it put me in the bed for 2 days. Needless to say, I took my son home to my mom's, and I didn't even say anything to him. I was so angry with him because he didn't do what I told him to do, and I left him at my mom's, and I left him there for 2 days. I was just so distraught, more so by how they treated me more than anything, and the thought that they felt that I was doing something wrong. And so I can kind of identify with Kiarre to that point. I didn't go over into the point of being accosted and knocking my door down, but just playing around with that was such a horrible experience that, I just feel so sorry for her, and from that point on, my son could never go out of my sight. If I went into the aisle and he didn't want to go with the women's lingerie, I told him he didn't have a choice. He had to stick to my hip because he didn't listen to what I'm saying. So when you do the right thing, sometimes the right thing gets misconstrued some type of way, and then you have to kind of hold on and know that God's going to bring you through the storm, because it's a storm, and sometimes it's like you're in your own personal tsunami, and nobody can feel it, nobody knows it, but actually we're connected. We're connected so tightly that some of us do know what you're going through, and we do know no matter how hard you try, sometimes it just don't work out. But we do have this thing called faith, and that's all we got is faith. And if nobody else believes it, we have to believe it. So those of you that are out there that are trying to do the right thing and it just seems like it just won't turn over, it's got to turn over. It's kind of like that old car that they don't want to turn. You keep hitting that pedal. You keep pumping that gas in there, pumping that faith through there. It's going to turn over. It's got to. We don't have a choice. It's got to happen. So my time is ended for Friday. I really thank you, my Source Nation family, for being a part of this discussion with me. And I ask that you pray for Kiarre and her children. I ask for you pray for all mothers across the world, all young mothers, all those that don't know, because as mothers, we don't know everything. And sometimes we do the right thing, the wrong thing, but our intentions are always good. So we ask that you just praise God's speed. And this is Myra McKnight with Can We Talk? Source Nation, I will see you 8 o'clock next Friday this time. God bless.